Good afternoon. It's currently 6:33 p.m. on April 30th, 2023. I'm Kyle Smith, and I'll be guiding you through this reflection video about geography of U.S. and Canada with Dr. Drzyzga. As I said, my name's Kyle Smith. I'm a computer engineering student at Shippensburg University. I'm supposed to graduate 2025. As a computer engineering student, I didn't really expect to like this class at all. It was one of those classes that I had to take as an elective, like one of the general electives that make you a well-rounded individual. But I was thankfully sorely mistaken on that. It ended up being my favorite class of this semester. And that's saying something because I did take a computer engineering class at the same time, but that's just how it is. I really liked it a lot because I didn't expect to really care as much as I did about what we were learning, but I ended up being really intrigued. Just in general, it's kind of hard to look back and say there was a specific thing that made me enjoy the class so much, but maybe it was the way that the professor presented the whole class. I would bet on that because it was probably one of the most engaging, almost fully lecture classes that I've ever taken. Maybe I just didn't expect myself to like learning about geography as much. I found the concepts pretty interesting. One of the things I remember learning that kind of stuck with me was, well, it wasn't just one specific thing, but it was kind of all of the stuff we learned specifically about Canada. Looking back, I realized I've been living in the northeast of Pennsylvania my whole life, and the closest neighboring state or country I believe is Canada, and I didn't really even know anything about the entire country. I just knew it was up there, and I visited once and got to hold a lobster. That's really all I knew about the whole place. It was up there. It was further north than us, and it was kind of cold. We went in the summer, so it didn't really feel different, but I didn't really know much at all about it, and learning specifically about its history, like how they kind of had not a civil war, but like a cultural war between the two regions, or the two provinces, Quebec and Ontario. That was kind of interesting, and I didn't really know about that too much before taking the class, and I kind of knew about how they had some issues like America did throughout its history, and I obviously knew that Canada as a country was younger than America, but I didn't really know that it was like that intense. I kind of always thought of Canadians as just like, you know, their own people, and like the whole stereotype for Canadians is that they're like the nicest people on earth or something, so didn't really expect them to have that much controversy going on in their country. That was something very interesting throughout the semester that we talked about, or kind of towards the beginning. It faded off a little in the end because we started focusing on America more, but I digress. It was one of the things that stuck with me. Another thing that stuck with me specifically was all the terms that the ability to use the terms that we learned, like push and pull factors and basic and non-basic economic activities. Learning to identify the push and pull factors of a region, and like knowing or kind of piecing together why people wouldn't want to be there, and why certain demographics are and certain other demographics aren't. Like for instance in Nevada, where we saw that desert with the golf course, and it was basically a giant retirement community, so most of the people that were experiencing its pull factors were retired people, and that's why it was kind of shocking, that's the fact that anyone at all would want to go live in a desert, like we said in class, is kind of like a little laughable, and I found that kind of amusing. But identifying those types of things in each region and or specific places, kind of realizing like a big theme throughout the semester is kind of like seeing places that kind of went downhill and seeing why those places ended up the way they did, and knowing what happened and where everyone went or what happened to the people who stayed was really interesting. And that brings me to the one thing that I kind of wanted to dive a little deeper into was, like, I didn't realize the sheer power or the sheer scale of effect that people moving from one place to another has on the region that they're moving from or moving to, and the whole like not even just those regions, the whole country in like as a whole. Like for instance, the manufacturing core, when all the jobs were being automated, or we were sort of outsourcing to other countries, the effect it had on not only the people working in those places, but the communities and the cities, like Detroit specifically, because everyone knows about the state of Detroit, like the current state of Detroit, but I didn't really fully grasp why it turned out the way it did. Like, it was supposed to be this glamorous, well, not very glamorous, but like prestigious motor city, and it kind of just, it doesn't resemble what it used to be at all. And seeing why places like that get like that was kind of impactful. The thing I wrote down was like kind of an analogy where our whole country is kind of like its own living, breathing organism or animal, and the different regions make up the different organs, but they're still all interconnected by this, that, or the other thing. Specifically, like us being all Americans, like even if people don't look at other people as the same as them, we all still are Americans, and I think everyone deep down knows that. And I think it's sort of like a big sibling, little sibling situation where they might pick on each other, but a push comes to shove, they're gonna have each other's backs. At least, maybe I'm being optimistic, but I like to think that we all try to believe in that. So, different regions, different organs in the animal that makes up our country, and when something happens to one region, it affects all of them. Like, we saw how interconnected the manufacturing core itself was with the agricultural core, the bypassed east, or megalopolis. It's a hard word to say, I'm sorry. But yeah, like, things that happen there, things that happen in any of them will affect the other ones, because they're all kind of relying on each other to a certain extent. Specifically, one thing that did stick with me, not just because it was the last day of lecture, but because it does kind of like resonate with me a little bit, was the fact that those two railroad companies were merging, the Canadian one and then the Kansas City one. I can't remember their exact names. I know Kansas City Southern, but I can't remember the Canadian one. But the fact that they were merging was gonna allow one, like, basically straight pipeline from Canada all the way to Mexico, for their raw materials to go down there to be processed and then just go wherever they need to, I guess. But it completely bypasses America, and that's just how it goes, I guess. Like, innovation kind of leaves certain people behind, but it's just one of the more recent things that affects one of the regions that we have here, and is probably gonna send shockwaves through the rest. Like, it's not like anyone like around us is gonna be unaffected by something like that, where jobs that people were getting money from to give to other people in their communities, they're gonna be gone. Yeah, I think I'm droning on a little bit, but sort of really all I had for the deep dive. I was just kind of fascinated by like I said, the massive scale of everything, and the massive effect that everything has on even people that don't seem like they'd be affected by it. Like a small pizza place or something that's near one of the factories that gets moved to a different city because it's cheaper to make the things there instead of where it was before. And like, historically, places being reliant on a specific resource, but then like maybe that resource doesn't get used as much, or they're running out of it, then people's livelihoods just, they completely shift. Really puts it into perspective, and I'm kind of thankful that I'll hopefully be developing skills that'll give me job security for quite a while, where maybe not everyone has that luxury even now. But yeah, I think that's what kind of stuck with me the most throughout the semester, was how like affected people can get just from like moving of one thing to another, like whether it's resources, people, money, jobs, which kind of equates to money, I guess. But yeah, I guess the only thing to go over now is feedback. In terms of feedback, like I said, I totally did not expect to like the class as much as I did. Did not expect it to be better than a computer engineering class or even a math class. But it was, and because of that, I think there's not really much I can say in terms of criticism, because I'm a little biased, but I felt like the class was really well done, and I guess it's specifically kind of, it didn't cater to my learning style, but it certainly matched it very well, I think. So I remember talking to one of my friends in the class after class, and he didn't really feel the same way. He thought it was kind of like complicated, or he found the topics that we were talking about harder to grasp, I guess. A lot of people were a little divisive about the quizzes. I really kind of thought they were okay. I'm one of those people who usually doesn't study, so it was kind of expected the way they went, where if I didn't open the book, then I obviously didn't do good on the quiz. But I usually did good on the quiz, or quizzes, because I would be able to have the book with me while we were doing the quizzes, and I paid attention in class because I liked the class. Comparing to like the other classes that I know I'll have to take, like philosophy, or the ethics class, or psychology, or like intro to film or something like that, like I look at those classes and I'm like, I don't want to take those. And it's not a very hot take. It's not like I'm trying to it's not like I'm trying to be cool by like saying, oh, well, these classes I definitely don't have to take because they're useless to me. It's just I don't really look at those types of classes and say, yeah, this is what I want to be doing with my time right before I have to go get a job. However, this class itself kind of changed my mind about that a little bit, where I'm starting to realize maybe there are things that I could, like, maybe there is like knowledge I could have that's not necessarily like related to what I'm studying or what I'm going to do as a job, but could still be very useful for kind of critical thinking or making other types of decisions. But yeah, that's really all I got for feedback. To summarize, I guess, just because there's no better way to close, I'm Kyle Smith. I'm a computer engineering student at Shippensburg University. Going to graduate 2025. This has been my reflection video on geography of US and Canada with Dr. Drzyzga. Without overselling it, this class is honestly like at least top 3 in my entire educational career from kindergarten to now. And I'm being serious. Like, I'm not trying to say that just because I'm saying that because I'm genuinely surprised by it and amused by the fact that this class was, like, to me, one of the best I've ever had. But yeah, sucks that I might not ever get to take another class with the same professor, just because my electives are filled up and the ones that I do have to take don't involve the same types of classes that he teaches. But I think while it lasted, it was very, very entertaining and very intriguing, and I extend my greatest thanks to Dr. Drzyzga for making this class like what it was and making it so interesting, and helping me outside of class as well. That's a whole different story, but he was very helpful, very good teacher, very fun class because of that, and I think that's basically the most I can say about it. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.